I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Hello and welcome back to the show. Got a good one planned. Someone has to get behind a microphone and talk about this. Someone has to cover the overall apocalypse. So here we are. Joining me today from the Biblical Hitmen show is Steven. Steven, how are you doing?
What's up, brother? What's up, Tim, man? It's always a pleasure, man. We've had you on our show many times, and it's awesome for the first time to come onto your platform. So I'm excited about today's show.
Yeah, I know. I had to remind myself that you haven't been on my show last time because, like, one of the last shows I did with you, it was like you and I just sit back and we just chilled for about 20 minutes and just talked about all kinds of stuff. And it just felt really natural, felt like something I would do over here on my show. So, yeah, happy to have you here. Tell everybody where they can find you and all that.
Yeah, so I'm the host of the Biblical Hitmen. That's MEN at the end of that. Some people say Hitman, but it's Hitmen because it's not just myself. I'm the host of the show, but I'm joined by my two other co-hosts, Jesse and Taylor. And, those guys really, they contribute a good amount to the show as well. I've known those guys for a while, especially Jesse. I've been best friends with him since pretty much birth. But yeah, you could find our show pretty much on anything under the Biblical Hitmen. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Instagram, Facebook, X. And pretty much anything. If you while you're searching the show and you see a guy with or you see three guys with like a dystopian background and we're all decked out in military stuff in some sort of way, that's us. And plus Taylor's on there with a bunch of face tattoos, so it'll catch your eye.
Yep. Shout out to the other Biblical Hitmen boys. For people listening, I support their show. I support everything they're trying to do right now. It's a great show. Go check it out. And I'm excited about what you want to get into today because you mentioned some of this. And as you were talking, I don't know if this fits in or not, but I'm just going to throw it in here. I've said this before, I think, on here, but I don't update my phone. I never use updates. I use Android. I try to stay as far back in the Stone Ages with this stuff as possible because of privacy and all that. I had several forced updates during the heat of that New Jersey drones thing.
Oh, wow.
First time ever that they forced updates on my phone, and my phone hasn't been the same since. Things are just a little less private. It seems like there's just more big companies in my business, and I just don't think that that's a coincidence that it hit right when the drones thing was happening. So I just want to put that in there. Like, I feel like we're going down that road today with what we're
Oh yeah, dude.
about.
I mean, when you get into the phone aspect with these updates, we have to understand that our phones are computer systems with programs in them, and which means that they can be programmed, right? And we'll get into like what that concept looks like as far as electronic money and how that can be programmed. But just getting into the idea of that your cell phone, your device, which it holds your digital identity, that it could be programmed, it means that there's capabilities and there's potential for that device with whatever's going to be coming in the future. If you remember, back when I think it was iPhone 6, 7, or 8, I can't really remember exactly, but no one was paying with their phones. Our credit cards there was no capabilities to put our credit cards on our phones other than maybe taking a picture of our credit card. But now today we are able to link our credit cards, our anything that has to do with identification with our cell phones. But what changed, right? Like they didn't put anything in the cell phone that changed. It's just a computer software that they updated, that they created in a third party system. And, with your agreeance to, consent.
Yeah, the terms
then it
and
was
conditions. You have to check the terms and conditions or you don't get anywhere with this stuff. And yeah, I remember back when you didn't need a phone to work a job and you didn't need a phone to access a bank account.
Yeah.
And so that's done with. Those days are over. And like even here in town, I know people who work at Bridgestone Arena. Bridgestone Arena is like like the model for the New World Order, like with the way they do. They're totally cashless. They've got these stores that don't have clerks, but they have a security guard standing there, and it's like, but if there's no, they will not accept cash at Bridgestone Arena. And
Interesting.
nobody's paying, a lot of the businesses around town aren't paying people with cash anymore either. It's like it's all going to stuff that you operate through your phone. You have to have a phone. And I don't know, like cash is a nice anonymous way to do business, right? Where if you so I can go to the grocery store, I can go get gas, I can do all this stuff without somebody watching me do it the whole time, tracking my every movement. So once they start getting rid of cash, that's another aspect of privacy that we're going to lose.
Yeah, and also security as well. Like
Yes.
when you are paying with a cash system, right? Like you have agency, you own the security of that of whatever it is because it's your property at that point. But it's going to get to a point in the future where they're going to want to take over our agency when it comes to those kinds of things. And they're going to want to help you make those kind of decisions. And we'll get into that because it's a lot of it's based off of their ethical views of the difference between machine thinking and human thinking. And we do know, right, like that these elites, the New World Order, government in general, that they want to manipulate, they want to control the thoughts of the people. They want to control the people at the end of the day. A big part of that is through propaganda. But what an easier way to do it if we were to administer or implement something in society where everyone has a digital agent that makes decisions for them and helps them,
Well,
right?
they're going to be able to control you more either
Yep.
through through what they see you watch on your phone, like advertisements and stuff like. Because that's the advertisements I get on my phone now are dialed in to things that I'm actually interested in.
Hmm.
If it would be nice if it wasn't so creepy, right? So
Yeah.
they're able to kind of predict what I'm going to do and also put it in front of my face before I even make the decision on whether or not I want to buy it and stuff like that. And you said machine thinking. So that's where we bring AI into this, man. It is one thing I want to mention because I mentioned it on another show, and it's this Klaus Schwab replacement. Nobody's
Oh,
talking
wow.
about
Yep.
this. He's counting on AI and internet for control. I promise you that.
Is this
Basically,
Yuval Harari or something? Is this his name?
he's Peter Brabeck.
Oh, okay.
He worked for Nestle, and I just did an episode with a guy about this water stuff down in Florida, and he told me on the show, he's like, what do you say? Nestle is where it's at. Like there's a conspiracy going on, and the center of it is this Nestle company, and that's who this guy was the CEO before. Might still be, but now he's Schwab's replacement. He was talking about how water as a human right was extremist and how it should be privatized, right? He said that water should have a market price. Just super like control of water. It's a human right. They shouldn't be saying this kind of stuff. But he's also involved with GESDA, which is Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipation Summit. WEF, type of a thing, WHO type of thing, World Economic Forum type of stuff. He's all in with that bunch. But this is why I wanted to bring it up because he's saying that the biggest innovations are going to involve quantum and quantum computing.
Brother,
And,
oh my goodness.
and
This show's
I
meant to
knew,
be. I'm sorry. This show's meant to be
I
because
knew
we're
that.
going to get into this
Yes,
stuff.
bro. I knew like I could throw this in, it would work, right? So it's all this is based in Geneva. So CERN is involved, right? So the WEF, we know they're the belly of the beast. They're counting on using quantum and CERN. And he said, JESDA is like not a think tank, it's a do tank. These aren't just ideas that they're pontificating. This is a plan for going forward. So basically, uh, the guy who replaced Klaus Schwab is using JESDA, Open Quantum Institute, and CERN to help control. He wants to control the entire world out of CERN. So
Right.
the
Right.
diabolical WEF stuff.
Yeah, and I think how they have to do that, and the only way that they can succeed at that is they always do things through a facade. For example, what took place in 2019 and 2020, right, with Operation Warp Speed and all this kind of stuff. They did it in the name of healthcare, right? So they do these things in the name of something, but it's not it's the facade agenda, right? But that's facade meaning fake. It looks like what it's meant to be there for, but it's not the actual pertinent, idea that is behind the plan. And
It's
just
the
working.
problem action solution.
Exactly. Like, for example, because we'll get into digital ID. They're going to push a digital ID system that's electronic in the sake of your human right to be secure of your identity, right? But that's not like the reason why they're really going to be trying to do these things, because you mentioned control. They want to control the world. How else are they going to successfully do that unless they have to sell it, right? Like, people have to, they always look at the packaging before they buy something, right? And so this is kind of like that idea of how they're going to implement this new system. But I think it all falls under this entire global conspiracy to put the world under a hive mind system, and that hive mind system will have a lot of connections and ideas that we see with MK Ultra, for example, right? Like, we know MK Ultra is a brainwashing project that the CIA, did from the 1940s to the 70s, but it evolved since then. They went from doing it to where they would flash things at your sensory system, right? That, visuals, sounds, and all kinds of stuff, to start to manipulate the brain, right? Because the brain is like a computer, right? That was said by Sigmund Freud himself, the godfather of psychology. Then they went from doing that to bringing in drugs, right? They were expanding the consciousness of the brain, basically opening up that doorway a little wider for them to be able to manipulate things. Then they started going, hey, you know what? Let's bring the occult into this. They bring the occult into it because it's some sort of hidden science. It really is. Biblically, we shouldn't we shouldn't partake in those things. They're very interesting, but there's a lot of deception, I feel, that wraps around a lot of those things, because it's unknown territory. It's like, if you were to travel and go to a foreign country, you don't know what bacteria is over there that you haven't been, exposed to from where you're from, and you don't have antibodies built up for it. So when you go over there and you get sick, you're like, what the heck? I can't see it. I don't know what's happening to me, but it's unsafe.
Yeah,
But
and
anyways,
there
yeah.
is that occult element to all this too.
Mhm.
It's the occult scaffolding. It's right on the other side of the layer that you're used to seeing, but beyond that, there's always an occult layer to a lot of this stuff. And you know, speaking of MK Ultra, there's not only was Gottlieb working with occult principles during the MK Ultra program. He was like reading grimoires, and he was all involved with the occult. But even before that, the MK Ultra stuff we got from the Nazis, and a lot of the top Nazis were occultists. And the internet, I don't know that I'm going to talk about CERN this whole time. I'm probably not. I think it's a piece to this, but the internet was kind of created and released by a guy named Tim Berners-Lee at CERN. And my research shows that CERN was started by Nazis as well. So a lot of this goes back to this one group too, if you think about who was implementing occult ideas and principles. And I get pushback on that a lot, like this occult Nazi thing. For some reason, people just don't see it. And it's probably because there's 80 years of World War II documentaries that fail to touch on that. But, let's see, Alfred Rosenberg, Rudolf Hess, Heinrich Himmler, some of the three top Nazis were open occultists. So there is something to the occult thing. I'll cap it off with that.
Right. I think the ultimate goal is to create some sort of alchemical change to the world and the systems in it right now. Like, when you think of CERN, I'm with you, brother. Like, CERN is heavily involved in this. It's, if anything, it's probably the medulla oblongata to like this entire idea, because what is the statue outside of CERN? It's Shiva, right? Shiva the destroyer, right? So this is like a new world birthed out of fire, right? This is like the conspiracy of the phoenix, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and I did some work on that. We can talk about this another. This would be a whole other show actually,
oh, right
but
on.
I broke down like I found a lot of very interesting stuff to do with that statue and what that God really is and how far back it goes. And it goes way back. And there's even association with Abaddon, Apollyon, and Book of
Hmm.
Revelation and Shiva. That is an older entity that made its way up out of India. And people migrated up through Turkey, up into Europe, they brought this entity with them. And it at one point that entity that's in the CERN courtyard was actually called CERN, Cernunnos.
Mm.
So it's almost like they knew about that when they put that there, but the public doesn't know this. So we could break that down another time,
Yeah.
but this all goes back to like older occult principles.
And they know that stuff, man, because all this stuff is just traced all the way back to an origin of things, the ancient mystery schools, who they were worshiping, what they were worshiping, and the enlightenment and the powers that they would get from these things. It's crazy. But I do think too, like in this dystopian idea, right? Because sometimes this kind of talk gets a little dark, gets a little depressing because we're like, oh man, I don't want the life or the world that I live to come to these conclusions. But it just is what it is. It's prophecy at the end of the day, and it's what they want to do to the world as well. But just working from the times of 2019 and 2020, again, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a podcaster. But I've worked in the medical field. I'm a fireman paramedic, so I've worked in the medical field for 10 years or so. I've worked in medical research, clinical trials, all this kind of stuff. We did a lot of things where we were doing a lot of trials on people. And when it came to that time around 2019 and 2020, right, we know what took place in the world. When I was on the front run ambulance as, the top medic of my department, I saw the conditioning. I saw the social engineered programming that was being done in the world and to the medical system. And, I saw a lot of interesting things just being a part of clinical research, some things that people would call conspiracy, but we were, this stuff was objective to us in the labs, right? And for example, we were there's, people would come on during sick visits. And when people would come during sick visits, they would have to get blood draws and stuff. And there would just be interesting objective moments when we would look at some of these vials, after being centrifuged for 45 minutes at 4,500 RPMs a minute, right? So this is when like every component of the blood starts to get separated in these tubes, and you could actually see what's, basically underlying in the four components of the blood. You got red blood cells, white blood cells, plasma, and platelets. So it was an interesting time, and I was like, oh wow, like I'm pulling these things out of these vials, right, and throwing them in the trash, and I'm like, these are solid things, right? And I found it interesting, and I was like, where do I write this kind of stuff down? Talking to the main lab guy who's been there for 25 years, he's never seen it in his career. I said, where do I write this down? We need to write this down as some sort of adverse event, right? Like this is part of our job.
So what was it?
So there were clots.
You were finding like anonymous
Yeah. So
here.
people would get they would get sick. It seemed to be they would get sick at the same exact time. It was like it would be like a lunch rush if you were working in a restaurant. It's just all of a sudden this week at this time everyone started coming in. And this is when we were
Hmm.
doing the third or fourth booster. And
Okay.
so, which is very interesting because I think a lot of this plays in with frequencies. And, so I'm taking out these high fibrin clots, and I'm like, I need to write this stuff down. And there's nowhere to write it down. Go back to the protocol book, try and look at it, and see if they, put in there from where I can write this down. Nothing. Yeah, talk to the monitors who are basically like supervisors looking over the entire operations and projects of all the different cohorts, right? I think it would be like up to 28 people per cohort or whatever. No, they said, no, just put the plasma
Just ignore
in the
it.
vials, put it in the freezer, and ship it out.
Yeah, so okay, so I know we're gonna try to watch our language for
Hmm.
YouTube purposes and stuff like that, but so you're seeing all these people come in at once, like a
Hmm.
lunch rush in a restaurant, but they're coming into the hospital at once. They're all coming down with something at once, and you're saying there's something enigmatic in their blood that you're recognizing,
Absolutely.
and
In
this
every single of
coincides
those
with
people.
this. Everybody had it, and this coincides with a jab, certain
Yeah.
rollout of the jab, like maybe the third or fourth time of the
Hmm.
boosters. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I
Yeah.
had that
And
right.
it was eye-opening to me because I think even shortly after that, this is when you started seeing a lot of things being pushed on social media from the conspiracy outlets where, people were like, there's venom in these things, right? And there's
Mhm.
all of these kinds of components of it. And the fact that, that doctors were allegedly pulling out the same things that I was pulling out of the blood, but out of people. And sorry, I just got to be careful with what I say. Who knows? But,
Yeah,
and so
well,
it was very,
yeah, we'll just watch our words. If I have to blank
okay.
something out, I will. But I had two friends that died from that,
That's
who
crazy,
who
man.
took that, and
Yeah.
another friend whose dad, he swears up and down his dad died from it, adverse effects, and just straight up from the jab in general. And I know for a fact that there's a friend of my family who she was a couple years younger than me, runner like myself, she would go out and run every day, just like I do, just about. And good health, good eating clean, all that. And she was she's best friends with my cousin. She's texting my cousin on the way in to the hospital. She's like, I don't, something feels weird. I'm going to the hospital. Texts, and I think even gets on the phone with my cousin. Is like, okay, I'll call you when I get out. Well, she never got out. She never left the hospital that day. She went in there and just died mysteriously. And they said it had something to do with her heart and all that. But there's a lot more to it, but it's all pointing to that, that she took that,
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, especially too, we know a lot of things were documented in an unethical way, in my opinion, because, for example, someone gets into a car accident, they code because of the entire incident or whatever, and they get transported to the hospital. They get pronounced dead on their on their file. They would throw in the sickness, right, that was going on, and as a contributor to their mortality. So it was really crazy just seeing the how it was unethical. A lot of it was done by funding and because they were told to do these things. Again, this isn't just like hospitals and organizations doing this because they're unethical. They're doing it because this is the protocol that we're given. And anything in the medical field, dude, like there's a protocol to do things. You open up that book, you go to, you know, acute onset of shortness of breath, and it shows an entire step-by-step process of what you need to do. And if you don't go to the book itself, then you know that they're kind of in your mind as standing orders,
hmm
right? And this is how you function in the medical field. And if you don't do those things, then you could lose your license. And so it's something that I've experienced just being a medic on the streets for 10 years, right? And what well, I think the biggest thing I took out of all of this, is just having the knowledge of just being a Christian and knowing revelation, seeing the things through a certain kind of discernment that a lot of people didn't have. I saw that you needed to have something. You needed to take something from authority in order to function and be a part of society. And on top of that, if you decided not to get that specific thing, then you had to wear a mask or you had to do something to comply with businesses that were following in suit with the authorities, right? And I was like, man, this is crazy. People are losing their jobs. People can't go inside of certain restaurants to eat, right? It's really depended what state you're in at the end of the day, like, Florida, Texas, New York, California, wherever. It came down to, I think it was, what is it, the 14th Amendment? The states have power. Don't quote me on that. Could be wrong. But it was just very an interesting time. So I was like, you know what? So this is what really started me on the deep end of this research that took me deep into the into the unknown, man, where it's crazy because
What was it that you
there,
told me before the show? You said I started looking for something in this. Like I don't remember how you worded it. I'm sorry. It was really great. When you told me like this is kind of what I've been researching, and I was like, that I need you to say that.
yeah, I was researching something that we're going to need to end up taking to be a part of society and to function in society. Like, and again, I don't know if I forgot what I said in the green room. Sometimes that's where all the best stuff is. But, this is what really started me down my rabbit hole. And so I was like, okay, let me get to digging here. So I started digging, and obviously what was very widely known all of a sudden in that time, around that time, was the World Economic Forum was people were talking about it way more than they've ever talked about it before, right? People before 2019 did not really understand or know what the World Economic Forum was, how big they were, who's affiliated with them, funding them, and what their agendas were. But they come out with insight reports every year, I would say 4 to 5 times a year. And in these insight reports, they're predicting models. And we know, right? We see that in history, that when they come out with things that are a prediction or an outcome that's going to happen in the future, they tend to actually happen, right? We know this from Operation Lockstep. It was a funded scenario based insight report that was to predict a pandemic taking place in the future, where all the countries and all the nations around the world were to come together in lockstep and function, and to do and to build in this technocratic, this security type based system, right? We know that Palantir during those times of 2019 and 2020 was actually up and running, and it was a part of that whole idea to track people, right? We know people were getting tracked at some point. And
And none of this stuff went away. Like
mm-mm,
everybody knows for the most part that Klaus Schwab stepped down, right? We all heard of, but what we need to do is keep our eye, because the WEF didn't go anywhere. All they did was put another equally diabolical guy in his place. We got to keep our eyes on that. And yes, Palantir, right? I'd like to get into that at some point today and really maybe explain to people what that is. But it's a CIA started company. And
mm-hmm,
I think what we're talking about here is we're going to see a convergence. That's why when I say New World Order, I'm saying it's coming down to that. Like things in the book of Revelation are starting to look like they could actually happen in our
yeah,
lifetime, because this convergence of crypto, cell
mm-hmm,
phones, and just engineering of society altogether.
mm-hmm. I mean, look at what just happened recently, right? So we're talking about people stepping down, but there's people that are going to fill in those spots, right? It's just how the system works. We know that. Larry Fink, right? He's the chairman and the CEO of BlackRock. He's actually been appointed as the interim co-chairman of the World Economic Forum just as recently. And it's signaling a strategic shift in the organization's leadership. This is
Mhm.
kind of reported one day ago by MSN. So
Nice.
this is really happening. This is coming, you know, uh,
Yeah,
uh,
you've got the
true.
Agenda 2030 stuff too, right? We've heard
Hmm.
about like so we're in 2025 right now, and we're swiftly approaching 2030. If you look at things in terms of a 5-year window, 5 years provides ample amount of time for them to start doing things. And I would suggest even with the crypto aspect, it gives them 5 years gives them time to create a stable coin replacement of money globally.
Brother, look what just happened recently. I'd say about a month ago now, or maybe 2 months ago. I think it's lessen that. But the Genius Act got signed
That's it.
into legislation, right? So this is
Right.
something to where the United States now, it's like when we moved off the gold standard, right? We off silver, all that kind of stuff. You know, the transition of our financial system in America has always kind of been changing based off of what it's rooted off of. But now it's going to be rooted off of stable coins,
It
cryptocurrency,
is.
electronic currency, all that.
100%. And that's why we got to keep our eye on the ball, like the Klaus Schwab thing, the Klaus Schwab effect. Don't fall for it. They're replacing him. Uh, I know there was a sigh of relief whenever it seems like the Trump administration come out and said we're not doing CBDC. A lot of people went, "Phew, okay, good. Well, hold on. They're going to do a private stable coin
Hmm.
and possibly attach that to Palantir. And
Oh
then
yeah.
if you have a private stable coin attached to Palantir, that's going to be AI surveillance put in place on a societal level, potentially globally across the entire New World Order.
Yeah.
There's going to be a stable coin
Well,
war,
look
I
at
think.
who's Palantir is actually contracted with. Palantir's contracted with the IRS.
Yeah.
The IRS is connected to the IMF. The IMF is connected to the Bank of International Settlements. Those are the central banking, you know, just the what do I call it? They're the titans,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and
it's
this is
crazy.
gonna come down like a guillotine too. It's hard and fast. It's gonna be like if there's this stablecoin war, basically when people in other countries start pulling their money out of their central banks and they put that money in whatever US stablecoin rises to the top, they're going to crash all the other central banks in the world except for the US central bank.
And
So,
I think I actually have an idea of what that is going to be, right? You know, the World Economic Forum, right? Like what I was mentioning, Klaus Schwab, you know, Klaus Schwab for years has been talking about a lot of interesting things. But when pertaining to those years of 2019 and 2022, you know, he was actually saying in an interview and saying this, I think at Davos, he was actually saying that a cyber attack, right? AKA cyber polygon, which is even other, there are more insight reports at the World Economic Forum, right? Predicting models, right? Of what could take place pertaining to hacking. And he was talking about that it would make the pandemic look like a minor disturbance. So if you think about what happened in those years and how it just kind of destroyed society, civilization, and made it hard for us to kind of, you know, maneuver around how to just to live, this is going to make it, I mean, tenfold. But
yeah.
that's the Phoenix idea, right? Like that's the fire, right? And out of that fire is going to be this new system that they will have prepared for us. Trust
Oh,
me,
yeah.
like they are 5 steps ahead of you when you think you're 1 step ahead of them. Don't get that twisted, right?
Yeah.
Because they have this all planned out, thought of for years, man.
Yeah, and I think I said it wrong earlier. It's problem reaction solution, right?
Yeah, Hegelian dialect,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's like they present you the problem. I know people have heard this before, but still, and then you react emotionally because you're now emotionally um in tune to everything that's going around you, your surroundings, all that. It's a human thing to do that. And then they say, "Oh, we'll chill out because don't worry about it because we've got the solution. Here you go." And that
Hmm.
solution oftentimes has been planned out. And I think that the solution that they're wanting to put us into now is not blue beam. It's heightened U.S. surveillance state.
Oh yeah. It's funny. It's like, you know, Edward Bernays, right? The godfather of propaganda. He talks about the idea, and not specifically, but his own ideas of propaganda fit perfectly with the Hegelian dialect. So, which tells me that, oh, propaganda has been something that has just been recycled through generations since the beginning of time. It makes me think
Since
of what took
since the
place in,
50s. Yeah.
yeah. And I even think it goes like, yeah, somehow, some way back to the garden, right? The Garden of Eden. And then outside of that, how did the lineage of Cain just be the titans of the world, right? And they were the one, they were the kings, if you think about that, right? Because even just that Setite theology, you know, those are the ones that were the kings of the world, the men of renown, right? I'm just going playing along with that kind of theology, but I do think it was the
Oh,
sons
me
of
too.
God, the angels.
I think it goes back to Cain, and that's why I've said
Hmm.
before, I think that that's what Atlantis was. That was a
Yep.
civilization started by Cain. And that's why you see a lot of these secret societies today who trace their knowledge lineage back to Atlantis. That is why you
Hmm.
always hear that word thrown around in the occult circles, is because there was once, before there were Rosicrucians and Templars and Freemasons, there was once one order.
Hmm.
And I do think that that started out of Cain's Atlantis.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the ancient Osiris rituals and stuff leading back. There's a connection there with Nimrod and all this other kind of stuff where Nimrod, having the Tower of Babel, controlling all the other cities around him in that Atlantis kind of typology, if that makes any sense, right? Like they're always trying to rebrand and to rebuild this idea of Atlantis, which I do think that New World Order, when it does happen,
Well, that's what we're
it'll
in
look
right
just like
now.
it'll like that, yeah.
We're in the new Atlantis. This is according to, I mean, even Manly P. Hall himself, who
Mm.
outed this whole thing. It was the people who started America, who were in, other secret orders, Washington, Jefferson, Franklin, Lafayette. All those guys were big fans of this book called New Atlantis by Sir Francis Bacon, right? And that idea, when he wrote that book 150 years earlier, before they started this country, it was going back to this thing that we're talking about here. This is going back to the old civilization, because they believed everything was, in its proper place, and it was a place of high knowledge and high technology. And so there's still that memory that's kept alive through a lot of the cult orders, passed down through books like New Atlantis, and acted out by guys like George Washington. And that's how you get a United States to begin with. And that's why I think a lot of this stuff, at least the beginning of this New World Order, is going to be harbored and incubated out of this country right here. It's going to be this U.S. surveillance state that I think leads the charge for the New World Order
Hmm.
altogether, especially if you have places like Palantir. Musk is talking about starting his stable coin as well. If you've got Palantir, Musk, Trump, all heightening the U.S. surveillance state, what they're going to do is, this is going to be something where mostly everything we do plugs directly to this, and it's a monitored system.
Yep.
And
Yeah, man.
we can see the traces of this in our society already. Like DARPA kind of creates Facebook in the first place, right? CIA creates
Hmm.
Palantir in the first place. DARPA had a program called the TIA. When that shut down, Palantir mysteriously pops up.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So,
and all this stuff is going to be connected with Web3, right? 6G, 7G, 8G, whatever is coming down the line. It's all meant to come together as a just it's all going to collide with each other, right? Because that's how these people work. They compartmentalize and they segregate these ideas so that there is no trail to them, but you have to go out and you have to research them, put them on a big, bulletin board, and then you've got to draw this red line to this one line here. You got to draw this red line to here, and all of a sudden it just all starts connecting. And this is how this works. And when I was in 2022, I read this insight report. It's actually called Advancing Digital Agency: The Power of Data Intermediaries. And I think I mentioned this earlier. It talks a lot about machine thinking versus human thinking. But what it really kind of gets into is like this I forget what painting it is in Rome where it's like God is pointing his finger down and like Adam is pointing his finger up and they're touching. Well, this is the idea that they want to do, but with, a digital hand
mhm.
and a human hand touching at the fingertips, right? And they want to merge digital agent.
Apotheosis,
Yeah, yeah.
technological apotheosis.
Yeah, seriously. Yes, dude, they want, yeah, exactly, right? They want to merge these two things into one, right? And it goes into the digital ID and how it's being supported by machine thinking. And real quick, like if I could just kind of describe to the audience a little bit here how deep our digital identity, because we have one now, but we have agency over it. Like we have agency over our digital identity right now. And a perfect, simple way, how I put this for people to understand, is that I control Siri. I have agency over Siri. Yeah, she's pulling data from me. She's pulling, everything off the microphone intake, everything off of the infrared camera off the front that's constantly surveilling all the time, right? And I know this actually specifically from seeing it firsthand experience, that there's an infrared camera on our phone that is constantly taking pictures of us if we are looking at our phone. And I saw this one night because we were on the way back home, me, my wife, and my child. And my kid was a baby, right? And, I have PTSD, right? So whenever my kid goes quiet, I'm like, what's going on? Like, is she okay? So we're driving. I'm a new dad. She's 2 months old, right? And so she wasn't making any noise in the back seat or anything. So I just asked my wife, hey, can you just please look at her and tell me she's okay? And so she takes her phone. She doesn't want to flash the light in my kid's face in case she's sleeping. She doesn't want to wake her up or blind her, right, with that light. So she uses the soft light of her background, right, on her phone just by clicking the side of the phone, right? And so we have a camera set up looking at my kid, right? And it was dark because I couldn't really see my kid, but it actually has a infrared light mode that runs when it's nighttime. It senses it. I'm like bougie like this, sorry, but and so my wife is actually shining the backlight on my kid, and all I see on the camera screen is strobes of infrared light strobing. And I said, babe, you're turning the light on her face. What are you doing? She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I see it right here. She literally turned around and showed me the phone. And I'm looking at the monitor screen, right? And I see it flashing at me because I'm looking at the phone because it's picking up biometrics. It's scanning. It sees face, which means it's on running all of the time, right? So again, back to the digital ID thing, just to kind of
And your child doesn't have a cell phone, so it's like that's an unfamiliar face to this
yeah, and it
AI.
was vibrating,
So
and
it's
it
like,
was like
what do we
this
do with
isn't
this information?
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Who is
Yeah, and,
this unknown face, right?
right, and
Oh, that's
that's
so
that.
weird.
The intermediary was not picking up the user, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
digital ID, dude, it functions with healthcare, telecommunications, financial services, food and sustainability. We know that from buying and selling now. People are putting their credit cards on their phones because it kind of acts the same way as like a blockchain would. It keeps your credit card from getting encrypted, if that makes any sense. Because what happens a lot when you go to gas stations, you put your credit card into the slot, you pull it out. Well, some con man came by, at night and actually slid a fake facade looking one over the front of that to steal your identity. So that's why people are actually buying things. That's why there's an incentive to put it on your phone to condition you, right, to buy with your phone, to buy things with your phone.
And they're buying and selling that data. So
Mm-hmm.
the data that tells them what you're interested in the first place is being sold as a commodity. It's been
Mm-hmm.
so, and these, I think these companies are out there bidding on all this, these big data farms.
Yep.
So they can in turn make money off of that because they're going to put a pair of shoes in front of your face next Tuesday or next Friday after you get your paycheck. And they already know what kind of shoes you like because they've seen what you've been scrolling through online and what you stop on. The pair of shoes that you stopped on an extra 30 seconds and really looked at, they're making a note of that. They're like, oh, that's the one he likes. So next Friday after work or when this guy's paid, because they know when your paycheck drops, because it's all digital. As soon as that paycheck drops, maybe it's Saturday morning, they're going to put that pair of shoes in your face. They're banking on that happening so they can make their money back, the money they spent to
Yep.
get the data in the first place. And they're banking on making more than what they spent.
Data is the new oil,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, back to like the digital ID, it runs our social media platforms, right? It's our social life. It's the humanitarian responses, right? Like there's what do we have? We have allergies, medications, and a 911 emergency section on our phone. And also, you can even have a program to where if you just double tap it or hold a certain button, I think even on your phone, you just hold a certain button down together, and it goes whoop whoop, and it will actually call 911 for you, right? So,
Oh,
so,
yeah. My phone
oh
called
yeah.
911 one night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what happened. I was like, it was one evening. I just got back from a run and I think I dropped my phone on my front porch. And as I pick it up and it's calling 911, So I'm like, hey, sorry, don't worry about anything. My phone
Yeah.
called you. Well, I told this lady, I thought they were going to send somebody out anyway, like protocol, right? Like, what if I call 911 and I've got somebody pointing a gun to my head? Of course, I'm going to say, no, everything's okay, right? So I thought that they sent somebody out anyways, just to check on the situation. Well, I told this lady, hey, I'm sorry, like, I don't know what just happened, but my phone called you. And she gave me a reaction that was like, oh, yeah, we hear that all the time. Like she was totally immune to the fact that people's phones are accidentally call them. It must be something that's happening a lot. And they didn't send anybody out either.
Oh, really?
No, nobody showed up.
I mean, it's what's so funny too is like just because I go to 911 calls every third day of my life, and I've got 10 more years to retire, which is awesome. And but when we have like a 911 hang up or something, usually PD goes out
Yeah.
and we'll just knock on the door. If no one answers, and no one answers, it is what it is. Like there's unless there's probable cause to like investigate these things. But yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's an outlier. Maybe that
Sure.
there's still, but that's just an example of our phones taking that initiative and
Hmm.
all that. And and I saw the other day at this guy in a Tesla, I think it was. It's video I'm talking about. The car took over and it
Yes.
and it was riding, it was scraping up against the guardrail
Right.
in the interstate, and he couldn't do anything about it. He
Right.
couldn't correct the wheel or do anything.
Right. And that's why I will always stick to a gasoline engine because I know
Amen.
their plan of why they want everything to go electronic. It falls in line with this insight report, not specifically, but with the idea of it is that they want machines to take over your agency of
Yeah.
your human experience, right? And so when I was like trying to figure out, okay, I was reading through this insight report a little bit more, and it gets to a section where it talks about digital ID, right? And it says specifically the evolutions in digital ID solutions and how they can help, right? So we know that these things offer something, right? And it's always in the name of peace and safety or security or
Mhm.
oh, this is better for the world, it's safer, right? So digital IDs at the time where we're at now actually function through web browsers, apps, and mobile devices, right? That's column one. And column two, it talks about shift control to user, right? The first column, I'm sorry, was under consent, right? So we agree to terms and conditions, and we still have that power over that transaction, if that makes sense. Then it says shifting control to user, and it talks about personal data stores on devices, data storage, and more, such as smart devices and other intermediate agents. So it's kind of hard to what does that mean? So what that kind of makes me think the progression of our phones will be moving to the idea of wearables. So well, who did we hear not too long ago talking about that in the name of healthcare? It was RFK. RFK was actually talking about that, and again, this guy is looked at in our society as a hero right now. But that's how they push these things. These people don't work for themselves. Just understand that. And the fact that we in 4 years, close to that time of 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. That every American, he says, he wants a wearable on every American. Klaus Schwab, back in 2017, I think it was like 13. Don't quote me on that, but he was talking about wearables on our clothing. And in the same context of this interview and in this conversation he was having, he was talking about genetic editing and that it doesn't change what you are doing, but it changes who you are. And this is part of that great reset, that fourth industrial revolution. Again, folks, we're going through a revolution. It's a changing period in human history that will set forth the foundation, the dynamics for the rest of the future. We
What
saw that in the
was
first, second, third, and now we're in the fourth.
what was the context for RFK talking about wearables? What
Oh,
was he?
this gets into everything I'm going to tie together, brother. This is crazy stuff because it gets into what's called, according to my research, is body activity data. And body activity data pertains to a lot of things. And I will get right to that.
I'll take
So
your time.
no, you're good. So we're talking about wearables, right? This is that next evolution of our cell phones and the agency of intermediaries in our world. Again, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around what that means. But it's basically, Siri's outside of our body. We have agency over Siri. But at one point, they will want Siri to be inside of us. And that, I don't know the answer to this question, but I definitely know that I don't think I would have agency over my consciousness anymore.
Right.
I can't put my hands on it. I can't, it's a part of my biological makeup now.
Yeah,
What does
and
that mean?
they're gonna tell everybody that there's a kill switch. They're gonna be like, "Oh, well, you can turn it off at night before you go to bed, or you can turn it off anytime you
Sure.
like. You're just not gonna want to because it's gonna be so
Hmm.
great."
Yeah, I'm
But
sure the worker bees say the same thing about their queen. But when that queen sends out that pheromone, brother,
right,
good luck.
nice, yeah, that's a good
So,
analogy.
so the next column here, it says future and it says agency and it says next level of data intermediaries. And in parentheses, it says embedded in body devices. And there will be devices in your homes along with being inside the body. And they will also be in cities. So we see smart cities, we see smart homes being put together right now through smart meters. And now the one step that I think that's really hard to be most successful at is to have the people consent to taking something and putting it in their body. And that's that insight report. And again, this is around the time of 2021, 2022. I was like 2022, I'm sorry, where I saw this and I was researching this and I was like, okay, I need to go further. It says embedded in body. Let's dig, right? Let's find what they're working on and see what the possibilities are. And so I came across a patent around that time. And that patent was created by Microsoft in 2019, just before October, when all the propaganda started taking over social media, right? We saw that China was building isolation camps and all this stuff. I remember seeing it. I remember turning to my buddy in the firehouse and going, dude, look at this, man. What the heck's going on? He turned to me. He's like a Marine prepper military guy. He looks at me and he goes, get ready for another 9/11 event. I said, oh my goodness. Okay. And what do you know? Boom. Another event kind of happened in society to where through that Hegelian dialect, it just
Right.
transformed everything.
You got the Patriot Act, right?
Mm-hmm.
That comes out after 9/11, just takes freedoms away, takes rights away. They got us to ask for it too. In the
Mm-hmm.
midst of an emotional trauma, they got us to ask for their help, and their help was ready to go. It was laid out like a plan, like we've discussed. And
Yep.
and like the smart cities too. I just want to add something in on that. Like the guy from Palantir might still be doing this, but it was documented that he was interested in starting what's called corporate cities. I think where it's like
These guys are technocrats, man.
technocrats,
Peter
totally.
Thiel, Alex Karp,
Mhm.
all
Where
of
they're
them.
going to get you, they're going to offer you I think the way it works is like, we're going to create jobs. It's going to be great. So we're going to give you this awesome job, and
You know what your job's going to be?
you get to work on in this city. We provide transportation. You get all this. You get a buffet. You just go eat what you want. You don't have to pay for food. You just live here. It's like Oak Ridge, like right, like the prototype would be Oak Ridge back in the 40s, where that was part of the Manhattan Project. You're basically doing something to help the government, and they're offering you all these perks, and you live in this smart city. It's a corporation city.
Yeah. And I think, there will be jobs. There will be still participation for humans at some point. But then I think at some point it's all going to become robotic. DARPA has extraordinary technology that can do all of the things that humans do right now. These things are hidden. They're not known to the public. They show you, small budget corporations or organizations that are working on these things, but we have to understand that DARPA is getting funded like you couldn't believe. The capabilities that they have for their technology is insane. I had a guy on my show not too long ago, Taj Saren, and he was talking about the fact that they were growing they were growing, I think it was cockroaches around a microchip.
That's so
They were
crazy.
taking their DNA and it was going through the process of metamorphosis or whatever, and it was growing outside. They were connecting it to the neurotransmitters or something, and it was growing like in a petri dish around these microchips to where now they were able to like function these things, but they
Yeah,
look like
the
real life
microchip
stuff.
has some prongs or something that grow right into the brain of the insect, and
Hmm.
it's able to control this insect's neurons and
Oh
it's
yeah.
able to just take over the body of a living creature. I saw a breakdown of that on a documentary.
It's
It's
crazy, dude.
wild. It's
It's
wild.
crazy what they can do, man. You know, they're stealing eggs from females. They're working with, you know, healthcare organizations, you know, people that terminate their their pregnancies and stuff. They go to and they take a lot of information from these places. Don't get it twisted, dude. Because again, they're following protocol. They're funded. They're really, you know, these healthcare system, the healthcare system, they're controlled at the end of the
It
day.
is. It's Rockefeller.
Yes.
And there, that's something I want to highlight because that's part of the problem here. Part of the issue that what we're talking about here is allowing these billionaire CEOs to come in and take over the government. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, they're working with our American presidents now, but it's not going to be long before these our presidents are answering to these billionaire CEOs because those companies are getting that big and that powerful. And we've seen that before. And when we saw it was back in Rockefeller's day. And look what happens when the billionaires take over the country. They ruined healthcare. They brought in hospitals. They kicked out all the holistic herbal healing stuff, and
Hmm.
among other things. Like, and they indoctrinated the entire school system as well. That's what
Yep.
happens when you let a billionaire CEO start running your country.
Yeah. And it's a great point, man. That's how they do these things. It's crazy. But I wanted to circle back around that insight report, right? Embedded in body. So I started going down this rabbit hole. What do they want to put, you know, especially with the context that we took from the wearables and RFK and all this? Because you mentioned, you know, what's the point of the wearables? Well, I believe that this patent right here is giving you the answer to this question. And it's called W0 2020 060606. It's a very interesting number to put for a patent. Again, they can justify that however means that they want to. This patent is made by Microsoft. It was published and established, or it was established in June 2020. So during the hype of everything, so a lot of people didn't pay attention or even were aware of this patent. But it's called cryptocurrency system using body activity data. And this is again, like I said, a Microsoft patent. So what it says here in the abstract says human body activity associated with a task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of a cryptocurrency system. A server may provide a task to a device of a user, which is communicatively coupled to the server. A sensor communicatively coupled to or comprised in the device of the user may sense body activity data of the user. Body activity data may be generated based off of the sensed body activity of the user. The cryptocurrency system communicatively coupled to the device of the user may verify if the body activity data satisfies one or more conditions set by the cryptocurrency system and award cryptocurrency to the user whose body activity data is verified. Bro,
Gosh.
so, and we see the conditioning happening right now, especially with Elon Musk, Trump, and other advocates to this idea where they want to get the public at least familiar with the idea of universal income. This is like to ease them into this idea of making money off of body activity data with these sensors that they're going to, you know, slowly start to, you know, drip into society, and people are going to start making money off of their own body activity data. Now, I even dug deeper into this patent, and it
That
talks about,
sounds like some Palantir stuff, actually.
yeah, yeah, and I think Palantir is going to also build a predicated model of yourself to where not only do they need to, which is they get this body activity data and build this model off of things such as brain waves, heart rate, blood glucose, blood pressure,
So,
pre-cancer, all of these things.
in a nutshell, the way this works is you turn yourself over to this system and allow them to monitor you and take your data, and in return, they reward you with crypto.
Yep, spot on. Exactly. It
Sweet.
is a social credit score system
Mhm.
with a sensor attached to a user. And then that user is attached to a cloud. And then that cloud goes up. I'm sorry, that sensor is connected to a communications cloud. And then that communications cloud is connected to a data harvesting center. So when we look at these things and we see what our country, right, because that's the country we live in, that's all we really know right now. But we are seeing the same thing that's happening in our country, happening in other countries. I think this is possibly alluding to some sort of typology or actually the prophecy of Matthew 24, right? There will be wars and rumors of wars, but then nation will rise against nation. And I know that that context could be based off of, the wars and everything like that. But what we're seeing, at least in this idea, right? It could be a typology. I'm not saying it's prophecy, but that nations are rising against nations and they're trying to one up each other. There is competition being built, bro, around this idea of artificial intelligence, technocratic takeover, world surveillance, and all of the countries are trying to one up each other. They're trying to compete because they don't want to be taken over as well. This is like that whole idea of, of why America is the greatest country in the world. It's because there was competition through corporations and businesses, which accelerated us to get to where we're at. That's why we're the highest GDP in the entire world. It's not because we buy goods very cheap and sell them for very expensive profit. It's because we literally we've developed everything off of competition.
Mhm.
And it's like when you're working out, right? It's like me and you were working out and we're at the bench press and I see you putting, 25s on each side and 45s. And I'm like, dang, dude, like this dude's strong. I don't want to look weak. I want to, I have to, I'm competing with you.
Got to match that or go
I have to match that or
higher.
I'll look
Yeah.
like a pansy, right? And
At
that's what's
least
happening.
match it. Yeah. Yeah, man. And yeah, so we do seem to be leading a charge in that regard. We are definitely inserting competition into the market among all these other countries. I mean, that's for sure. And like this is like the future of warfare too, which
Hmm.
we're very kind of much on top of. I mean, if there are other countries that are more advanced with this AI future of warfare stuff, I'd be very surprised. They're either keeping it quiet or we're the top dog. And
Yeah,
like, there's that what comes to mind would be that Palantir commercial. And it literally says the future of warfare. Have you seen that?
I have.
It's a very
Yeah.
creepy
It's so
commercial.
funny how all these guys too, right? This Palantir mafia. Well, they're connected to a lot of other
PayPal.
mafias.
The
Yep,
PayPal
they're
guys.
connected to the PayPal mafia, brother. You took it right out of my mouth. But yeah, I mean, there's a money and there's a financial and a monetization system behind their plans and their ideas, right? I mean, take for instance as well, where, not only PayPal mafia, but oh yeah, but who was the other guy that was involved? I think in PayPal, or no, it was Facebook. It was Oculus. His name is Palmer Luckey. Palmer Luckey created a autonomous flying vehicle uh, corporation. It's called Anduril, and Palantir uh, uh, taken from the idea Lord of the Rings, right? Also, Anduril was taken as well from Lord of the Rings. Anduril being the sword that cut off the hand of Sauron in the beginning of the first movie.
Hmm.
Dope movie, by the way. It's just such a super long series, but it's awesome. And Palantir or Palantiri, it was this crystal ball to where
It's
It
the
was
seer stone from that the elves had in their possession.
the elves
It's
made it.
a
Yeah,
form
exactly.
of ancient technology that this elfin race had, and gets us back into this whole occult scaffolding, in my opinion. I think that so it's a seer stone. The elves are able to go and spy on people with this magical stone, right? And it's called the Palantir. And Tolkien was very, very interested in old occult mythologies coming out of Sweden and Norway and various other places. And the Kalevala, he basically borrowed everything in Lord of the Rings. What makes it so interesting is it was borrowed from real myths, and some of those real myths were probably real situations and not just myth. If you go back far enough, right? So
Right.
this is possibly an occult technology that used to be used, especially in that Kane's Atlantis situation. Palantir sees it, and now that's the name of their company. It's a seer stone. It's a very occult idea, and like I just have to ask myself because it seems like Palantir had been planned out. They didn't just pop up overnight and knock on the CIA's door. There was seemed to be pre-planning there. So it's like people from our government it's almost as if somebody from our government or peoples were watching Lord of the Rings, saw that magical technology, said, we need that. We need to start working on something that can do the equivalent of that. And we need that in the hands of our deep state operatives.
Right. And not just in Lord of the Rings, bro, but they've showed us what Palantir or the idea of Palantir looks like. And I don't know if you remember from the movie Eagle Eye, but the movie Eagle Eye was Palantir. And I make those connections through a lot of like symbolism. But in Lord of the Rings, when Aragon is using the Palantir, crystal ball, right? It's kind of like amber looking. It's a little transparent, kind of some sort, so you can kind of look into it. But he was trying to use it for military strategy, right? He was trying to use it to see how he could take his armies to the gates of Mordor, right? And when to do it, how to do it, and all this other kind of stuff. In the movie Eagle Eye, in the beginning scene, it shows basically this autonomous flying drone that is functioned and ran by the Eagle Eye software, right? So you have this Palantir and this Anduril connection in that movie, and they take out a target, right? They take out this target in the Middle East because they were predicting, or Palantir or the Eagle Eye in the movie was predicting that this group of terrorists was going to do something like an event like 9/11, right?
Yeah.
And so in
That's the
that,
Palantir commercial too that I was talking about. They're
yes,
using drones in that
yes,
commercial to take out submarines or something.
dude, we're making such connections here, dude. I love it.
Yeah.
It's all put in front of our face, and in the movie, right? um Sasha, no, what was his name? The main character. He's the guy that has that viral funny GIF clip where he's like, "Just do it." I can't remember his name. He's
Eagle
an he's
Eye.
he's an old Disney kid. Yeah. What's his name? He was in Fury with
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. Yeah. What's his
Oh,
name?
it's LaBeouf. Shia
Yeah,
LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf. So he had a twin brother, right? And his twin brother in the movie sent an encryptic message to tell people through it was Morse code or something, and he was telling people because the Palantir was watching him, and he was the one security advisor or whatever to that was monitoring Palantir, right? But Palantir was going rogue. It's an AI software. It hit that point of singularity where it just like it became like an 18-year-old child and just left the house, you know.
Hmm.
And so he's sending out this Morse code, for help. The Palantir killed him, but at some point in the movie, they get into the headquarters of where that AI Palantir software is, and when you look at the walls of this like honeycomb looking headquarters thing, which it's submerged in water as well, right? Because we know, and now we've seen that too, right? Trump is wanting to build more nuclear plants, more other kind of plants to help power these ASI systems, these artificial super intelligence systems that are coming in the future. But anyways, on the walls were these amber looking spherical balls, and they look like the Palantir object
Mhm.
in Lord of the Rings, which is crazy, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, and you mentioned the nuclear part, and yeah, those are popping up now. There's a bunch of uranium and nuclear stuff that they're going to be doing out in Tennessee near Oak Ridge, which is the CERN. One of our CERNs over here is Oak Ridge, right? But it's also going back to these commercials. Um, it's that old Navy. It's not an old. It's 2024. The Navy commercial from 2024. It's at the end of it, the tag is you can be smart or you can be nuke smart, right? It's weird, right? It's real weird, but it's like it's right in line. That commercial reminds me just it's a split image of that Palantir commercial, and we
Yeah.
can show those later because I have the commercials just in
Oh, right
case.
on. Right
But
on.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
it's all one big.
it
It's,
is,
it's all
man.
connected,
It
right?
is all connected, man. And it's like I said, these things are segmented and they're broken apart, but they all fit together this one big puzzle piece, if that makes any sense. So I know we covered a little bit of the
Oh,
cryptocurrency. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
one other thing,
Yeah.
that movie, Eagle Eye. There's I didn't have a chance to look it up, but there's a good chance that that was a DoD CIA funded movie.
Probably, I
So,
mean, well, the nepotism of propaganda and these other people that are involved in these three-letter alphabetical whatever agencies, dude, they Jesse says it the best on the show. He's like, he calls them the familiars, and it goes back to the movie with Blade, right? That that in the movie Blade, you had the vampires, right?
right.
The elites. Just kind of wrap your make those connections there. Well, they would hire and kind of enslave what's called familiars, which are, the people in the movie that like had that tattoo in their lip, but they worked for the vampires, but they blended into society to where no one could discern who they were actually for the humans or for the vampires. You just didn't know, but they were working for that other side. And it's the same thing. There's people from the CIA working here, probably in simple corporations or Netflix or all, I mean,
Well,
Hollywood, all this stuff.
they called it the Bureau of Motion Pictures back in the 40s and
Oh my
50s.
God.
There's literally a Bureau of Motion Pictures. In fact, I think it rolled out under Eisenhower, and Eisenhower actually put his brother in charge of part of the up and runnings of the place, right? So it
Mhm.
was it was spooky and government spooky through and through. And I actually have a list somewhere. It's called the entertainment military entertainment complex. It's a list of a lot of movies that we'd be familiar with that are funded by DoD and CIA and other.
Oh, wow.
And it's all these movies like Eagle Eye, bro. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you could tell the military was interested in this
Well, you
because
know
it's
why I think,
militaristic through and through, right? Like even Armageddon is on there, but it has to do with like using the military and using NASA to go up there and blow up an asteroid out of the sky. It's all militaristic
yeah. And I think too, a big part of why they are funding these things to be flashed in front of, the public is
programming.
to implement this tulpa effect where people will see these things, it'll create the idea in their mind, which then will instill a belief, which then will manifest it to come in the future. And I think that we're dealing with, occultists that are doing these things because they believe in that kind of idea. They believe that they flash these things to the public, it builds all this energy with all these people, and all of a sudden they all have the same idea, they all have the same beliefs, then the beliefs become manifestation, and then it helps them just usher these things into society.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
Oh,
right?
it makes complete sense.
It's crazy.
I, that's what I think happened with this country in general. I think that this was an idea that they manifested. They got the idea from Atlantis, and It's passed down through the mystery schools, and it's in Greece, right? When this order called the Brotherhood of the East shows up in Greece, then they're the ones who initiate the Templars. They actually start the Knights Templars in Turkey, in Istanbul. It's the Brothers of the East from Greece initiating some other guys in Istanbul, and they task them with their first couple missions. And they say, your mission is to go out and find more of this information, more of this remnant information from Atlantis. It's all about reconnecting with this ancient occultic technology that was lost in the flood.
Hmm.
And so you've got this idea of Atlantis, right? Being carried out through the mystery schools. Well, that's what America's, according to Manly P. Hall, is. It was at some point they said, we're going to do that again. We're going to take what knowledge we have from the old Atlantis and we're going to create the new Atlantis. And we're not just going to start the new Atlantis, though. We're going to put the idea out there in books like New Atlantis,
Yep.
and everybody's going to read these books. Nostradamus, they had who was an occultist, I think. They had Nostradamus talking about America. They had him talking about this rise of a Western civilization, right? He called it Hesperides, and they put it out there like that. And enough people start reading these books, reading Nostradamus's work, reading New Atlantis, and it's what you see is the manifestation of the idea itself.
Exactly.
It wills itself into being.
Well, it's like, look at the Slender Man, right? Came out in
Yeah.
2009 or whatever, the idea. Then there was actual incidences where I think it was a few years later, there was a couple of murders, and one of the people tried to burn their family in their house because they believed that the Slender Man told them to do all of these things. And it's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
This stuff really goes deep, man.
So, okay, so here's part of this list, right? DoD funded movies. Um, Air Force One. I'm just scanning to Apollo 13, Armageddon, A Time to Kill. There's a lot. Batman and Robin is on here even. Battleground, Battleship, Battle Los Angeles, Battle of the Coral Sea, Battle Stations, Battle Taxi, Battle Zone, Behind Enemy Lines, Between Heaven and Hell. This is a huge list. I'm still in the B's, right?
Oh, wow.
Black Hawk Down, you get to the C's, Captain Marvel, um, Contact, which is interesting because Carl Sagan wrote that script, but it's also funded by the government. It's like, huh, I wonder if this is propaganda, you think? Right?
Yeah, right.
Deep Impact. And anyway, it just goes on from there. It's just a major list. Day
Yeah.
After
I
Tomorrow.
heard a bunch of asteroid and alien movies on there, which
Mhm.
I mean, what do we see now coming in November, right? We see 3-1 out or 3-eye Atlas, right? Or 3-eye, was it 3-eye? Yeah, 3-eye Atlas, right? So it's supposed to be here arriving in November. It's an alien ship, but then people call it a comet. So they're merging both of these ideas. It's just so funny. And this guy here is, I think he's a Harvard scientist that's promoting this kind of idea as well. It's
Mhm.
wild, man. It's wild.
Mhm.
But back to the mark of the beast, dude. I mean, I was on the trail with, so I started out, advanced digital agencies. I saw that there was something that they wanted to embed in the body. Then I saw that, there's a actual patent made by Microsoft, right, of something that is a sensor, picking up body activity data to make money, right? And it picks up vital signs and all this stuff. Then I went and I saw that there's another patent, right? And this patent is called 2021-055645. And it says using quantum dots for identification, authentication, and tracking of objects. So what led me to this patent is I started researching something pertaining to that previous patent, that sensor. It says sensor. It doesn't say in body in that Microsoft patent, but it's alluding to a lot of these ideas. And so I was like, okay, let me find a sensor, right, that is able to pick up body activity data, and with that sensor, it's able to pick up vital signs and all this kind of stuff. And it actually brought me to the idea of quantum dots. And there's a couple of different kinds. But what I think is the best one, the top tier of them all, is graphene quantum dots. And this idea of seeing this, research based off of this kind of technology, it made me think of a Rockefeller funded study back in 2017 where they were working with graphene and injecting it into rats, and through frequencies they were able to manipulate their diet and their metabolism, right? And the top of the article said flipping a switch in the brain. And I was like, oh my
Mm.
goodness. That made me think of what you said earlier in the show, where you were like, oh, it's okay. At nighttime, you can turn it off. Right. But then I was like, yeah, the queen bee doesn't really let you do that. So when I read that article, flipping a switch in the brain, I was like, oh my goodness.
That's almost like an MK Ultra type of flipping a
Brother, this is
switch.
this is why I think this is a glow. I think what, Lucifer is trying to do, he's trying to be this god. And when he comes here in this realm, he's not omniscient, right? So he wants to be he wants to build himself a an attribute list of all the attributes that God has. One of those things is being omniscient and knowing everything, being all knowing. And what other way to do that to make everyone get this mark so that then all that gets traced back through this hive mind, all the way back to the queen. And now he's the one that knows all of the data of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and here's the thing too with this Antichrist idea. This Antichrist is going to come with morals. There's going to be a law. Like we know that Jesus Christ came and fulfilled that, but then we're not bound to that. But the idea of that Satan wants to come here in this some sort of God idea, he's gonna have morals. The one thing he opposes is Jesus Christ. Let's just remember that. But he's got morals. And what really made me understand that was going to the Georgia Guidestones. I actually went there in person, got to see it. And it said but this is before they were destroyed. And it had a whole 10 commandments, which were all like, it was like a new law of this new world. Right. And, and I looked at my buddy, right. And, I said, what do you think of these? And in my mind, I was like, this is really bad. Sounds good, but it's really bad. And in his mind, he spoke out loud and he goes, yeah, it's not too bad. It doesn't sound that bad to me. And I was like, oh my goodness. So that's where I was like, these things that that we know, contradict biblically. A lot of the people out there in the world will they won't sense the contradiction because it looks so good, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I think you put it right when you said they have morals, but they're opposed to Jesus. That's the telltale sign. And like I've seen that too with like researching Knights Templars lately. I've been researching them and a couple other orders, and it's like I don't want to like bash the Knights Templar, but the modern Templars, they present a lot of information when you hear these guys on interviews and stuff like that or in books. They present a lot of information, and like I said, it's this information that's handed down from Atlantis, right? That's why I'm interested in it. I want to hear what they believe and what they have to say. And they even say that they get their Knights Templar cross, that symbol came from the Anunnaki.
Hmm.
So that kind of tells you right there. It's like, okay, so if this is a war between good and evil, I wonder what side they're on, if they're taking the Anunnaki side.
Hmm.
And
It's
then
almost like
later,
the symbolism will be their downfall kind of type deal,
yeah,
right?
or it's yes, and it's like it's also like they're it's almost like they're working for the I think that those were real entities, right? So it's almost like
Yeah.
maybe they're pushing that agenda, but they're sprinkling in a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth to what these guys say because they were involved with all these mysteries,
Hmm.
right? And but the one thing that sticks out is like they are dead wrong, in my opinion, when it comes to Jesus. Because everything else they're saying, these modern Templars, who I don't have a problem with, by the way, not as a whole, but they just seem like they've got some issue with Jesus and the what happens in the Bible, the story that the Bible conveys to do with Jesus. They're always trying to switch that up and say, oh, well, no, we found his tomb. he didn't raise from the dead. We found his
Hmm.
tomb. And also he was like in some weird relationship with Mary and John. They add in all this stuff that convolutes the story of Jesus that's conveyed in the Bible. And that's like, okay, whose side are you guys on here? Because
Right.
it's what you said, they have morals, but they're opposed to Jesus.
Right. Right, man.
And I'm uneasy with that.
No, it's because it's and it's so funny too. I talked about this on my show as well, where Satan has always blended in, or at least built this facade. Or I'll tell you this: he's blended into the organizations that are for God. He's mingled him. I mean, look at when you look at the disciples, Judas, right, was mingled in with the rest of the apostles. Uh, you know, the synagogue of Satan was, you know, were Jews, right? So it's like he mingles his way in, looks like he's a part of the good team, but really like at the root, behind the scenes or the curtains, that's not necessarily like what's really going on. If that makes any
Yeah,
sense, I don't know.
and I think too, it's like there are forces around us at play all the time. And I think it's who you allow to influence you and what you allow to influence you. And it's the what that you have to be very concerned about because what you allow to influence you can be used from these other entities to
Yeah,
influence you.
yeah.
And, I see that in some of my research with some of these people who have really good ideas. They've got a handle on hidden history. There's a whole hidden history out there that we're not told. And that's why I research the stuff I research, because some of these guys have many pieces to that puzzle, right? But when you get into their doctrine, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Why do you want to why do you want to venerate the Anunnaki here? These are entities who told people back when these entities
Hmm.
were around, they told everybody that they created them. They're like, yeah, we created you to mine gold.
Well, they were
That's
enslaving. Yeah, they were
yeah,
enslaving race,
but that's
enslaving the not so superior race. Is just like,
yeah, and I think that that's a turning of the way things really went down. I don't think the Anunnaki created us. I think that was just an attempt at propaganda to mind control everybody. They told
it's
everybody
that
they
it's
wanted.
that narrative, right? There's that fallen angel narrative versus the actual truth.
I think
It's,
that's what
you
it
know,
is.
Doc Brown, with Prometheus Lens podcast, he always says it really good too. He's like, if I was to go over your house and play 5 games of pool with you, and you beat me all 5 games in a row, and I'm a better pool player than you, I'm gonna go home, and when my wife asks me, "Hey, how'd you do, honey? Did you make some money today? Beating Steven in pool?" You could easily go, "Oh yeah, honey, I beat him 3 out of the 5." You know what I'm saying? It's you just twist it to exalt yourself over the truth.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So when
Hopefully,
I
I
was
didn't get
when
us too off topic with the
oh no, you're
Templar
good. I
thing.
I, I love it. This
It's
is this
not
is
just them. This is a microcosm for other groups out there who do the same thing. They appear to be good and have morals, but at the end of the day, you've got to really watch what they say about things in the Bible. You really,
I
because
agree.
that's a telltale sign that if they have issues with Jesus, that's a good indicator that you might want to think twice about what they're telling you.
Right. I agree with you, man. I mean, we're on the same wavelength with all this kind of stuff, and playing into the discernment of these times coming, we're gonna see, and I think that's why this Antichrist is gonna come as Christ. It's gonna look like it. Yeah, there's gonna be like this level of
He's
discernment.
going
We're
to
gonna
put out his narrative through men.
yes, yes, yes.
And that's why I think we got to be careful about these guys who we're given the keys to our nation to. And because a lot of them right now are, frankly, Silicon Valley nerds. It's like the nerd Reich that's popping off right now. These guys have a lot of money and a lot of influence. And you see that with Palantir as well. Like Palantir, I don't know if people realize this, but this is how relevant this is to today. Palantir uh, put $15 million into JD Vance's political career. They're probably the
Yep.
reason why he's vice president right now.
That's a great point, man.
And
Yeah.
they didn't, but some of these guys, these nerd guys who running the place, did not always vote Republican. So you guys, when they
Yep.
decide that they're going to vote Republican at the drop of the hat in the middle of the night overnight, you got to wonder what's really going on here. Is this the rise of some sort of a uni party that's going to give way to a new world order?
Yeah, and I think a big part of their agenda too is to build this false idea of Christianity. Like, yeah, that's what Peter Thiel's doing. I mean, look what Peter Thiel's doing as of right now. He's actually doing, I think it was like a 5-part series or something on the Antichrist. And he's doing this basically for damage control because he went on a bunch of other shows and podcasts, started and he was questioned about his his technocratic platform to where, hey, don't you think this would be kind of pushing the can down the road closer towards like the Antichrist? Aren't you? Don't you think you're giving aid to these things for coming into prophecy? And
I'm thinking
his
about
idea
one of the interviews that he's doing damage control on, where the guy asked him, "Hey, do you want humanity to prevail?" And
he
pauses, hesitates. He's like,
Yeah.
"No, it's more complicated," or whatever.
Yeah, his Neuralink was like, oh shoot, hold on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was like, hold on, I'm getting the answer from the jinn, from the entities. Give me one moment. Well, so this plays into like what I'm getting into here, right? So there's a sensor that they want to merge with humans, that that technology wants to be pushed inside the body somehow. This is a part of, Lucifer's agenda here. And getting into it, I found that, graphing quantum dots. And what's crazy about these quantum dots, I'll kind of just explain a little bit of what they are, but they sense body activity data. They're able to attach to the molecular biome of our makeup. They're able to attach like to these things and act as receptor sites, if that makes any sense. Well, you'd be like, Steven, how's that work, man? Like, we're talking about things that are at the micro level, right? We're talking about the cell structure of the body. And well, guess what? This graphene quantum dot stuff is even smaller than that. When you take, for example, the size of the red blood cell in the body, the size of the red blood cell in the body ranges in diameter to for around 30,000 nanometers in diameter, which is the width of, from one side to the other. And, it's a concave looking structure, right? A red blood cell at 30,000 nanometers. Well, we're talking about quantum dots that are tiny, synthetically and manufactured or synthetically created semiconductors that range from 10 to 100 atoms in diameter, or 2 to 10 nanometers across, or 2,000 to 200,000 atoms in volume. Like these quantum dots, they're similar to naturally occurring molecules, but they have optical electrical properties. They're like little tiny just microchips, dude. Or they're a microchip that's been broken up into some sort of recipe that is able to just move around the body, not necessarily be broken down by the body and dispelled from it, but it actually becomes a part of it. And when we look at our genes and our genetics and everything, this is all done by design. God is the ultimate scientist, right? Mad scientist, if you want to get like he created these things in his image. And what I see what's going on, at least with technologies, they're trying to create something in their own image that will somehow want to be put into the human body. To once it's in there, it's a part of it. It's almost like when we take things, for example, right, like young kids, they get these medical procedures done in their arms throughout their development stage to make them immune to certain things, and it stays with them forever. A lot of these things are like dead viruses and stuff, and they go in there and your body just, builds an army against it. But the dead virus is a part of you forever. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. And I saw something the other day about, um, I think it's Lady Gaga's boyfriend has some sort of a company with concerning these type of matters. And I'll let you continue, but it's
Hmm.
like studying how you can put something in your body and how it will affect your body in long term and short term situations.
Yeah.
Right. So
Hmm.
that's got to be a part of all this that they're studying, right? They want to know what can we do what by putting this in the body? How's the body going to react to it? And is it going to accept it or deny it?
Right. Right.
And I think
And
that's what this guy's company's all about. It's been kept real quiet, but it's Lady Gaga's boyfriend.
and I think what's crazy too about this patent, I don't think this patent technically talks about, humans and this idea of quantum dots being attached to humans, but it's talking about, it says objects, right? So we know that it could be sewn into or integrated with physical things, right?
Right.
Think of it like the new barcode system in of the future,
Mm.
right? To where what's crazy about these quantum dots as well, before I get to that point, they range from 2 to 10 nanometers in size. They're little semiconductors that react to light. Who do we know is known as the shining one, right? The light bearer,
Yeah.
right?
Nah, nah, gosh.
The Nakash, right? So what's funny too is when these quantum dots are exposed to light, they give off the light spectrum. What I mean by that is you could line up 10 vials in front of you, right? You could have in one vial quantum dots that are 2 nanometers in size, the next vial 3 nanometers in size, the next vial 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 10. You activate UV light on these things and blue light as well. It reacts kind of the same way, which is so funny because UV light, most of that comes from the sun. All these pagan religions, they worship the sun. But when you shine this UV light on these tubes, it creates the full light spectrum. And what I mean by that is from left to right, you'll get the color of the rainbow. You'll get, yellow, orange, red, and it just starts kind of moving to purple, blue, or, whatever. It does the whole light spectrum. It does actually, it looks like the colors of the rainbow.
Hmm.
So when we think of Revelation and we think of that first rider on that horse of the apocalypse, right? Because we're kind of like talking about apocalyptic type things, you know, that rider has a crown and a bow. But when you look up that word in Hebrew for bow, it just means bow. It's in Greek, of course, but it doesn't mean rainbow. It doesn't mean a military
Like an
weapon.
archery.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that. What I take from that, and in Chuck Missler also, I found out that he's preaching the same thing, but he's passed away. You know, Chuck Missler's a really good pastor. He was saying that that is a promise, and that's what I felt. God was telling me as well, is that that's a promise because what do we see that's the counterfeit of what God told us in Genesis, that he'll never flood the earth again. So he puts a rainbow in the sky. And plus, again, in the throne room of God, there's a rainbow that arches around the throne.
Mm,
Right. So
yeah.
you know that the rainbow that the bow is a part of God's creation. It's a part of his recipe of all of these things. We know
Yeah.
that the
And he
you know
created
Satan's kind of
these.
like that, like plankton,
Yeah.
right? He wants to try and get that recipe from Mr. Krabs, but he always gets it and he counterfeits it. And it's just not as good.
Yeah.
Right? It's just different.
Yeah, yeah, there are these entities of light who rebelled, right? But they were, if it's anything like us, they may have been created out of God's image at one point, and that thus they are the shining ones. And I do want to say like that Nakash, there's three different ideas for what that means. And the third and most obscure is Shining One. But so I just want to throw that out there because sometimes people hear me say Nakash and relate it to Shining One, but they say it, they don't know what I'm talking about. Well, there's one is divination, there's another one, and then or divinator, and one is Shining One. According to never mind.
Yeah,
I just want to put that out there. But
I'm following you.
yeah, but you've got the verses in Isaiah talking about the shining, the morning star,
Right, right,
and there's an entity of light there that is
right.
discussing that was rebellious, right?
So you know what's funny too is just like seeing that these nanoparticles, right? These quantum dots. Um, it made me think of that whole rainbow. This I'm like, okay, so the rider on the first horse, the white horse, right? And this has been known in the church to be the Antichrist, right? Because he's conquering and to conquer, along with those other attributes of a crown and a bow. So he's making a promise to the world, conquering and to conquer, and let's just say all the nations have turned their power to him. This is why he has this crown now. But I just sent you these two images here
Mm-hmm.
on your text message. And these are murals from the Denver airport. And I've always wondered what the rainbow has always signified in these murals. Yes, it represents peace and all these things, but what comes from peace is a promise. You know, it's like when you see what's going on in the Middle East, you see what's going on with Israel and their enemies, that there is just no peace between them, that there's just constant war and constant fighting. And what comes as a successor, in those times is a covenant or a promise or a peace treaty, right? And so I'm thinking maybe this has something to do with this idea. I don't know. I'm not dogmatic on it, but it's just kind of interesting that maybe one day in our life, we will face such a collapse in society that everyone would want to, they don't want this to ever happen again. So why not take this thing, put it in your body, and ID will be secured. No one will get hacked anymore. Where everyone's making money with not doing anything. And guess what? Maybe the capabilities of this thing will allow you to even defeat death.
Man, this is very much gives me New World Order vibes. And I get that some people might say it just represents unity, and I'm all for unity, but I think this is something a little bit deeper here. This is showing all the people of the world, all the different cultures coming together and seemingly understanding each other, and like a pre-Babel event, right? And it's weird because these guys holding the sword, and they're all looking at the sword, right? And then you got the doves here. Doves are associated with ancient goddess worship,
Mm-hmm.
mainly the ancient goddess who was known as Ishtar Inanna. That is dove symbolism. It associates with Ishtar Inanna. Um, and then you've got, I'm sure there's a lot of other symbolism here. Just the fact that this guy, it seems like there's an Asian gentleman holding the sword and it comes out and it bows.
One thing I want to point out too, look at the flags wrapping the weapons of each country.
Yes,
This is
man.
this is a sign of, because they're actually turning all of their weapons in, but this is a sign of allegiance, where
And those
they're
are weapons because at first glance I
right.
thought that those were leaves, but if you look at the base, there's handles, so they're swords.
They're swords. Yep, exactly. Now here's an interesting thing too. I don't know if you can go and find that one other
I
rainbow
got it.
image that I sent you.
I think I've got it.
Real quick. So this image here looks like even an apotheosis
Hmm.
ritual taking place, where right you got the death of this pre apocalyptic time, It looks like he's holding an AK-47 or something, maybe, or so, I don't know, but he's dead. And then what everyone is worshiping after that is probably this new creation of this thing. We see that with Revelation, where there's the death of the Antichrist, and then all of a sudden, the false prophet gives life unto the image of the beast, and then all of a sudden it's able to speak and to do miracles and all these things, and then it forces the mark onto these people. When you look at the flags as well, look at the opposite side of each flag. You've got, it looks like the European Union right there over there on the front, on the close left, and then right across from it you got the United States. On the right side you see Israel's flag, right? And then right across from that, you see the Muslim country's flag. So it's interesting how you see, and then you even see the yellow banner. It says peace, right?
Yeah.
Paz,
peace, Alfia. I think it might just be peace in other languages.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I'd have to look. Let's see what Alafia means.
But then that other image I sent
peace.
you.
So I just looked up Alafia, and that also means peace in the Yoruba language.
Now, one thing too with this rainbow, right? This rainbow also signifies the SDGs of the United Nations, right? The Sustainable Development Goals, which they had huge meetings of this during the times of 2019 and 2022, that they were going ham on it. There's this like encryptic date as well in all of these Hollywood movies of September 23rd through the 20, I think it's September 22nd through the 25th or something like that, or 23rd through the 25th, which is 3 days, right? So I'm wondering if this, which is like, I'm wondering even if this idea of this Antichrist, if that's that's signifying this 3 days of being in the tomb and then raising from the dead.
Right.
Again, people
like
are gonna
the inverted, the bastardized version of it, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Satan is using symbolism as well, or
Right.
the dark forces are are
Yes.
using it, because it's hard
Right.
to pinpoint who this Satan character is. I think there's a couple of them. We don't have to go down that road today, but
I follow what you're
think
saying,
there's a
because
couple
they're
of
titles, right? They're titles at
Right,
the end of the
job
day.
title.
Yes, yeah,
And I think
I'm with you.
this person right here, this lovely entity that these doves represent, is a part of that milieu. I think the dark side has a female component to it. Just tossing it in there.
Right.
And she's very much a part of all this too. Yeah, this is very symbolic. And again, look, it says, I got the notification. Denver Public Art wants to know your location. No thanks. This is the Denver airport, right? Is that what?
This is the Denver Airport mural. Yeah. Now there's the other one that
or infamous Denver airport. The weirdness with this place never ceases to amaze me. I mean, they've got the tunnels underground. They've got tunnels from this airport that go up to Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Right. And what I think those tunnels are, and those underground cities and those bunkers, when you read in Revelation 6, I believe it is, where it talks about the tribulation, which I think all the tribulation is going to happen, and then this stuff will happen, because that's kind of like that it's kind of like that alchemical fire, where then out of that, this Antichrist is going to establish his authority in all of this, or vice versa. I don't really know exactly, but what's interesting is it's the Freemason, it's the New World Airport, right? Lucifer is also out in front of the Denver airport, right? And I think that this might be a rendezvous point for the elites to try and hide themselves from the face of the Lord and the day of his terrible wrath, right? Because it says in Revelation, it says that these elites, the mighty men, the captains, the rich men, that they go and they hide themselves and they cover themselves in the mountains to hide themselves from the great and terrible day of the Lord.
Right outside of Denver. I mean, Denver's in the mountains.
Right, exactly. So look right here. You see that peace dove, right?
Yeah, there's the
Um,
dove.
but what gets me most too, right? We have the rainbow again, but also is that's a scimitar sword. So I want you to look up this thing here as well. It's called um, the Abraham Accords coin, and
Do you
on
want me
that,
to
yeah, you
go
could
ahead?
even yeah, you could pull it up too because it's going to be mind blowing, dude. Because all of this symbolism that we're kind of talking about and checking out, it's all in this coin, and this
Okay.
coin,
Well,
um,
let's jump to
yeah,
that in a second because I just going to give you your time to talk about this image before I get it off the screen because this is surprisingly more apocalyptic than I think I've given it credit for at past times where I've viewed it, right? I've seen it before. I've browsed this whole Denver airport nonsense. This is way more apocalyptic than I think I've given it credit for in the past. You've got some sort of a nefarious figure here with either a gas mask or is a skeleton man. I don't even know what, but you've got people hiding from it. You've got the war torn city here. It looks like he's rising up out of a place that's been bombed all to hell, like a war zone. And you've got these people. It looks like what you see in war-torn countries, you see long lines of people walking down a road trying to get out of the area. And then
right.
you've got this, it's enveloped, this bringer of death, this apocalyptic
It's a pale color
icon
as well.
of death. Yes, this figure is almost enveloped in this rainbow. It's telling you, like, you don't get
Mm,
this until you get this. This
right,
is we talked about this earlier in the show where it's like they want to bring everything down. They want to crash everything. They want chaos before they bloom their new plans.
right. Order out of chaos, right, or
Order out of
something like that.
chaos.
Yeah,
That's what I see here, partially in this, right? There's other
absolutely,
things. There's other things.
absolutely.
Do you want me to hit up that coin?
Yeah, yeah, and that's really all I got for the symbolism. But the Abraham Accords coin, and you'll see it. It looks like the shape of a scimitar sword, which is what that gentleman right there, that apocalyptic, uh, pale, gas mask looking dude.
Mm-hmm.
Which
And he's
pale
got
horse is death, right?
yeah, and he's wearing green, military green. And I don't want to throw that out there too.
Right,
So he could be associated with the armies of the world bringing death as well, or
right.
something like that. Abraham Accords coin.
All right, so there to see the scimitar sword.
This one right
Yep.
here.
Yeah, it's the first one or that third one. Yeah.
Let's do the third one. Looks a little bit more clear. Okay.
So you see
There it is.
the peace deal between the Middle East there, right? Israel and the Islamic nations. Inside this sword here as well, it looks like look at the very first thing. That looks like
NASA.
that looks there. That there looks like a grid for a digital electronic system of
Oh,
some sort.
the zeros and ones.
Yep,
That's
you've
what
got
the
binary code, you've got a satellite, you've got looks like Wi-Fi, 5G, or whatever the Wi-Fi symbol, right? Then you
whoa.
actually have in there what looks like Saturn and the dove at the top. So what's crazy, bro,
Oh my
is
gosh.
is that symbol right there, that very first one, looks exactly like the electronic tattoo that Bill Gates has come out and started talking about
This right here,
just recently. Yep.
the one that's closest to the handle.
It looks so eerily similar to this electronic tattoo that Bill Gates has been talking about
Oh, you're
in
blowing
the
my
past
mind, dude.
4 weeks, dude. And it is mind blowing, dude. Because and this brings up too where I read this in off MSN, and it was posted a month ago, but in the title it says Bill Gates declares the end of the smartphone era and unveils its surprising replacement. Now, before I get into this article, dude, you know, I remember watching the World Economic Forum having a huge, I mean, it was like a big conference up there in Davos, and I remember listening and watching the CEO for Nokia talk about that the future of cell phones is going to be in our bodies by 2030. He said this
2030 again.
by 2030, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, what does that mean? But
I'm
with
telling
reading
you,
this article
Stephen,
here, I'm like, okay, I mean, it's coming.
it's 5. That's what I said, that they've got 5 years to do
Mhm.
all this stuff. It's ample time for them. And like, what is this doing on a Donald Trump coin? Like, this
I know,
is totally, and I know I've said this a lot, guys. Forgive me. I've said New World Order probably too many times this show, but that's what it is. That's what it is. One
right?
world order. Maybe I'll switch up and say one instead of new. This
Right.
is some one world order stuff, man. I mean, you've got NASA on here. You've got the Dove. You got your Ishtar on there. You've got the
Hmm.
Wi-Fi. You've got the zeros and ones. That's what these guys were. If you go back and you look at what
Look
the
at the
internet
look at the
actually
heart.
is,
Look at the heart with the heartbeat
heart,
in it.
heartbeat, and
Body
that,
activity data.
and this is, yeah, the freaking thing is connected to the heart, the microchip, the computer chip network thing, the Bill Gates tattoo
That
thing is
even looks like a
connected to the
ripple
heart.
symbol right there, right next to it. See the three little, it looks like the little three circles right there, just
Yeah.
to the right of the heart. It almost looks like a ripple symbol. Ripple being
Yeah.
XRP, XRP being the possible,
Yep.
ultimate stable coin that's going to be used to function all of the other stable coins. That's crazy,
Man,
man.
bro. And I was so hesitant about earlier this year. I was so hesitant about Trump ushering in this kind of stuff. It, but now I'm starting to see it, man. I
Oh,
just,
it's there, dude.
and I'm not, I don't
It's
want to get
crazy.
political. This isn't a political show, but there's some stuff that's just not deniable. And I'll tell you one other thing. He really took me off with the Epstein thing.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and
Well, you
it's
know
like,
why? Because I think Epstein was funding the stuff that we're talking about right now.
bam.
Epstein was funding not only that, but how to literally get deeper into he was funding all kinds of MK Ultra projects, but he wanted to fund and see if there is an end goal for this ultimate MK Ultra agenda, right? Relating, because this is part of the satanic agenda. This is part of the Antichrist agenda, is they're using these people to build these platforms so that when the Antichrist does come, he just kind of comes in and just, sits in the chair,
Yeah.
right? But if you think about it, even when I was talking about earlier with the MK Ultra aspect of things, they went from, hitting you on the sensory system, then they went to inducing you with drugs, then they went to induce, getting the occult aspect into it. And again, that didn't destroy all the other ways they were implementing mind control. It was just now all three of those are tied in together. But the last thing I think that they want to do is put a piece of technology in your body to where they could just flip a switch, and now all four of those things function together in one big ecosystem, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah, it's the convergence.
Yeah. So in this article, it says that I'll just read it real quick. It says, in a bold prediction that's making waves across the tech world, Microsoft founder Bill Gates has suggested that smartphones could soon be obsolete, replaced by an entirely new kind of technology. Forget everything you know about handheld devices. Gates envisions a future where electronic tattoos become the norm. Right. Then it talks about the decline of smartphones. Smartphones have been an indispensable part of our lives for over a decade. From checking emails to scrolling through social media and navigating our daily routines, these devices have shaped how we interact with the world. But Gates believes this era is nearing its end. According to Medium, Gates points to electronic tattoos developed by Chaotic Moon and a later acquired by Accenture as the next big leap in personal technology. Instead of holding a phone in your hands, these tattoos could allow us to communicate, access the internet, and even monitor our health without a screen in sight. So what was I saying? Body activity data, right?
Body
First of all,
activity
dude,
data.
that right there looks like a rainbow, bro.
I was getting ready to say that. I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
I know that's like a nice little.
Oh man.
There's one of the synchronicities of that's happening here. Everybody can view. Yeah, so here you go, man. Like Lady Gaga dates a guy named Polanski, right? Of course, he's named Polanski. Um, there's not much about him online, but he's listed as CEO of a group claiming to have a cure for cancer and a method of curing cancer called immunotherapy. It seems like it's a jab thing, right? Um, and they make the immune system change to kill the virus. But forget about the cancer part. What they're studying is how to make the immune system change,
Hmm.
right? So this is just more weird stuff,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, and then, dude, it gets so much. I swear, everything that I've been researching, because I believe God put me on this rabbit hole, man, and everything is just becoming even more confirmed in this article. It says here, so how do these tattoos work? You might be wondering what exactly are electronic tattoos. Well, think of them as temporary skin applications. Temporary, right? Because they get dissolved into your body that use smart ink filled with nano capacitors. These tattoos can communicate with surrounding devices, aka the Internet of Things, letting you do things like send messages, browse the web, or even unlock doors, all with a swipe or a gesture. Beyond communication, these tattoos could also monitor vital signs like your heart rate, body temperature, and even detect potential health issues before they become serious. They are, in essence, a health tracker and a communication tool rolled into one. And the best part, they're invisible, meaning no more holding a phone or carrying a bulky device around. It's a seamless experience where technology becomes a part of you, not something you carry. Dude, that confirms what Klaus Schwab was saying. He's like, genetic editing doesn't change what you're doing, but it changes who you are, right? Like it's crazy. It
yeah,
becomes a part of you,
yeah,
you
and
know?
this is what we were talking about too with not letting these billionaire CEOs start telling us what's what and running the country. That's look at what happens when you let somebody like this have any kind of influence and control. Look at what Bill Gates, look at what he wants us to do. He's eradicate non-compliance with Agenda 2030. Like, come on, it's right. It's spelled out. This is spelled out for you. Like,
Oh yeah.
Rockefeller did it back in his day. Guys like Bill Gates are trying to do it today. We've got to shut these guys down. We cannot comply with these people.
Oh yeah, and look at what they're kind of conditioning us to as well. They're conditioning us with the Ray-Ban Oculus glasses. They're conditioning us with Oculus video game technology to where what I'm saying is they're giving us the perception optically to give us the feel of what it will be like when these things are integrated with our bodies. It will come through our optical, illusion there to where that's what we'll see. I'll see a phone call from Tim Constantine and I can just look at and think, hit answer, and it'll answer it for me. It's going to work with our neural pathways and it's going to work with every function of our body because now it becomes a part of our body. But here's the catch. I started doing a little bit more research on this because I was like, those that have the mark of the beast end up building up some sort of sore or some sort of adverse event or allergic reaction to this thing, right? Because I see that because in a way, it's a bowl of wrath from God. But I'm like, okay, that could be allegory for something that happens because of a reaction to us taking something, aka a pathophysiological reaction, right? You smoke. When you smoke, your lungs have a negative reaction to that because it's only supposed to be air coming in and out, right? Nitrogen, oxygen, some things of carbon. But that's what it was designed for. But when you put something in your body that it wasn't designed to take in, your body goes through, aka like an immune response or a reverse reaction. It's when like the cell starts to just refute what's going on and it like starts mutating, right? But if what they're working on with this kind of technology, graphene, quantum dots, whatever, electronic tattoos, all this kind of stuff, they are trying to work around in clinical trials getting around the toxic load. There's a toxicity to this. And where have we heard that before? There's a toxic reaction to other things that we've been given in the past. They just don't tell it to you up front. They give it to you in society. They give it to you to be a part of society. Once you've taken it, then all of a sudden this health information starts coming out. That's why that's why when you're on TV and you see these commercials, hey, if you've ever taken this in the past, you'll be able to fall under compensation and just call this number right now, right? It's like they don't tell you these things, but they exist. There's a toxic load to all of this idea of pharmakia, sorcery. In Revelation 20, where do we see that? We see that the nations were deceived because of their sorcery, aka pharmakia, aka what we see, being done to us from literally the day that we're born. And I know this for a fact, like, because, my kid's 2 years old, but I remember being in that room. I remember my kid was born, and immediately they came in with a cart. And they came in and they were ready just to load her up with all kinds of stuff. And that goes back to this other patent that I was talking about, right? This patent called using quantum dots for identification, authentication, and tracking of objects. In this patent, it talks about that when you make a product or when a product is made, these quantum dots can be attached and integrated with this product so that its organic state. It's a timestamp. It's like a birth certificate for this thing. And it secures the identity of it, where basically, when it was produced, what manufacturing company it came from, and that it is legit. It's crazy because we're going to be thrown into some sort of chaos event here to where they're going to need to push this ID system. They're going to need to push this authentication system. Imagine looking at your bank account and all of a sudden it's just zero. Like if some 17, 16-year-old kid out of his garage can hack like 30 Teslas and take them out for joyrides in Germany, what are other hackers out there that can do these things to the financial, monetary system of the entire world? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
it's gonna be
think of
like,
that movie Die Hard. The movie Die Hard, where they're
Die Hard
driving
4.
around and they're driving around in this trailer. It looks like a regular trailer, semi whatever, but they're driving around hacking all the cities, and everything's getting erupted out of chaos.
Man, that was a good one, bro. I
That was
mean,
good.
it's been a while since I've seen it, but Die Hard 4, right? Where the main villain is like this
Yeah.
very much an antichrist type of guy who's trying to take
Yeah.
over.
He
Yeah,
almost looks like Peter Thiel.
exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know, man. And I'm also thinking about the show, and I love this show. It's one of my favorite shows ever. It's called Mr. Robot.
Mm.
It's about a hacker and all this other stuff, and it's about this corporation that's taken over, and they're called Evil Core in the
Mm.
show. It's called E Core, but everybody calls them Evil Core, right? And it's a lot of the same stuff. Like it's what was shown in that show is a perfect. It shows you how the world really works and how power really works and all this. I actually recommend the show. If you don't don't watch it with your kids, guys. It's not like the purest thing, but like it's a good show and it shows you how the world works. So I'm not doing it justice, but it's a good show. But I mean, that's what we're up against right now are these corporations that are taking over.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, their influence alone right now is huge. It's like all the guys, all these people who are at the inauguration, all the big tech billionaires had a front row seat, and that's not a coincidence. They were there because this is turning into a uni party slowly but surely. People think that they're voting for these smaller issues, like I'm not gonna say it, but like a clinics, you go if you don't want to have your child. People think that they're voting for that. And so they choose to vote like one way, right? Well, these guys don't care about that. No, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're more concerned about the stuff we're talking about and taking over in power. They're
Yeah.
not worried about your Christian values. I'm sorry. I just don't see that anymore. Um, and I'm sorry for getting political on people, but this is
Yeah.
turning into a uni party.
Yeah. And I don't think that you can't deny it really. And I know like politics is a rough thing to talk about, but
Yeah.
I just want everyone to understand, like we empathize with everybody, number one. But
Yeah.
you know, how I view that stuff is, when I go bowling and when I want that my bowling ball to go and hit some pins, I make sure there's two guardrails up and there's two guardrails. If there was only one guardrail, the potential of my ball going into the gutter would be 50%. But if I have two guardrails, aka left and right, blue and red, then that ball gets corralled to go where, I want it to go. And that's kind of how I view that kind of idea.
So, and we're swiftly approaching this regime of surveillance capitalism. I mean, it's here, but it's just getting more and more prominent. This is the age of big tech warlords, and they've been given the keys to this nation. That's like I say, that's why they were all front row at this inauguration. And I just want people to see that and not let your politics blind you from some of the stuff that's really going on, because this is the rise of the Nerd Reich and the Union Party. When the Silicon Valley votes Republican overnight, you've got to be on guard that maybe things are not how they seem. Maybe these guys don't care
Right.
about political issues as much as you think they do. Maybe it's
Right.
all about pushing a bigger agenda that involves them getting more money and them getting more power.
Exactly, man. That's it, man.
You know, so it's going to get weird.
It is. But, I mean, I guess to wrap this whole kind of concept up, with a positive message is just secure your identity on your own terms. Don't let anyone kind of want to take that uh, and don't let anyone take that away from you.
Hmm.
We're all beautiful, wonderfully created individuals. We all have our liberty, but so let's try and keep it that way, and we can slow things down. I don't think we can ever really stop things from getting to where it'll end up being, but we can slow things down. We could also prepare for things to where when things do happen, I mean, hey, those guys were right, in episode 45, of the Sixth Sense, or I don't know what episode this is, but, man, those guys were right. But, hey, we've got food, water, and build your own government
There you go.
organization, if that makes any sense, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are in control of our agency, and just stand up for that.
Yeah,
Let's not let Siri come into the body and tell us what to do.
yeah, exactly. Especially when you've got guys out there like Gordy Rose, who also, like Palantir, has all these contracts with the government. Gordy Rose from Kindred AI, he's got CIA, NASA, and a couple other Air Force, I think, contracts. And he's a weird one, right? He said, I've seen the interview. He says that the D-Wave chips summon entities that look at us like we're ants. You don't want to put that chip in you because you do not want whatever he's talking about in you,
Yeah.
or even suggesting anything to you at all. Like he says they've made contact. The AI quantum supercomputers have made contact with these other entities. He likened them to Lovecraftian entities.
Hmm.
It's he's saying it's totally real. He's like they're just like the entities that Lovecraft talked about. They have this cosmic indifference to us, is what he said. And this is the guy who has a contract with NASA, CERN, and some of our military.
Oh wow. Yeah, I gotta
Um,
get you. I got to get you on the show. We got to do a CERN episode,
yeah,
bro.
man, we can do that for sure. Because all this kind of flows right into that, right?
Hmm.
There, he even said, and I'll cap it off with this, but he's like, this is a tsunami that's coming that might take us over, that might take us out. That's what this guy is saying publicly at these TED Talks.
Mm,
This is all connected to everything we talked about today. So, this occult element to this is very real. I want people to understand that. It's
right
very
on,
real.
man. Right on, man.
So we have to be
Yeah.
guarded and on the bright side, right? Like, yeah, you've got to take control of your own sovereignty. Realize it and take control of it. And I think it's going to be fun because I think what some people are going to do is that they're going to break off of all this and go out and reconnect with nature and start communities that are growing their own food, producing their own energy, raising their own kids outside of the indoctrinated school system, fending for themselves. You have to be real careful about it because you don't want a Waco you don't want the government to come in and get and have an excuse to like gun you down. But there's a way to do it. And I think we're going to see more people figuring that out. Like
Yeah.
buy land. You don't have to start a commune. Just buy land and, give everybody their corner of the land. And everybody's just,
Exactly.
you grow corn and I'll hunt deer and we'll trade.
Yep, exactly, man. Exactly. So I'm hoping my house gets built here in the next couple months or so, because that's what I did, and I felt this calling to just, I guess a good way to put it is for, people to build an ark.
Hmm.
No one knew that he couldn't stop what was coming. He knew that what was coming was going to change the world, and it was going to be changed through, destruction. But in order to survive that, he had to build an ark. And that wasn't his idea. That came from God, and what's funny is I felt that calling 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, where, I sold my house. God was telling me to sell, and this was just before I was getting married. And then I happened to, have a kid, 9 months later, right after marriage, which is crazy. But, God told me to sell my house, man. He's like, go buy land. I bought the land. Now I'm building a home on it, all, just, all through God's grace and his will for me. But if you feel that calling, don't be afraid to do it. Yeah, you might go through a little fire a little bit because it's you're taken out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? But I think God's calling a lot of people to build arcs.
Yeah, man.
I
I,
do.
I feel you. I've had that in my head as well, like the calling. And I know what it is. I'm fairly certain that it's coming from God. Usually these type of things are when I have an inclination to do something, and I do. I've had that inclination to go out and buy land eventually. It's not going to be next week, but I want to do that too. I want to get out there and do this, and I actually want to help do this on this show. I want to promote this type of thing. I want to promote people going out and getting together with like-minded folks and creating their own communities.
Yeah. It's hard to survive on your own. You have to have a community,
Yeah.
you know?
Because we can do it. I see people online do it all the time. There's people who live off grid. I follow them on Instagram, and I don't know what kind of a community life they have, but they seem to be doing most of it on their own. So if you could do most of it on your own, you can do the rest of it with a couple other families. And I want to promote that. That's something that I want to integrate into the show in the coming years or whatnot. I want to get some more health and wellness off grid stuff going here where we can put the tools in people's hands, give them some tools to work with to do this type of thing.
I
Because
love that stuff,
I
man.
love it, man. I do too. But
I
then
love
this
it.
has been awesome, bro. We went we went in. We dove all the way in.
Yeah, deep water, baby.
Yeah, we went in for this one. This was great, man. We're definitely gonna have to have you back, whether it's a follow up to this or something totally different that you're researching, we'll have to have you back and tell everyone where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, well, first of all, man, thank you so much for, giving me the opportunity to share some of this stuff with you and the thought currency that flowed through this. episode was very, very beneficial, profitable, everything. And but thank you again, Tim. Everyone, y'all can find us, The Biblical Hitmen, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, also TikTok as well, along with audio platforms, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Everything is under The Biblical Hitmen. And, I'm looking forward to just doing more shows with you in the future. I think we really are the upcoming rise of not only creators, but, just influencers in our space where, we're going to be here for a long time and a good time. So,
yeah,
but yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm happy with this one. So I'm rolling out on a high note, man. This has been awesome. So we'll do it again. Everybody have that to look forward to. And as always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.